I mean, I'm happy with what you call a base hit, buy for 8,000, sell for 16,000, but we mail for the base hit all the way up to the home run.
And we used to do this a ton, hundreds and hundreds of deals. We just put 15% mortgages on our land and leverage other people's money and then tell them at the end of it, we'll either pay you out or the property will be deeded to you essentially.
Another neighbor wound up driving by, and this guy was just belligerently drunk. He's talking to us, and his ATV starts rolling down, went off somewhere else in the distance, and then all we hear is just pop, 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 pop.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today we got a special guest, Mike Brusca, who was actually, Mike, you're one of my first mentors I've ever had in just entrepreneurship, e-commerce. Mike showed me the way on my first dropshipping stores, Kindle publishing, Amazon FBA, all of that stuff. Mike was the guy for me. And, we worked back together probably in 2018 or so is when we first started working together. And, you helped me build and sell an e-commerce store. So I'm pumped for this conversation. But then Mike transitioned from doing that. He still does that. He owns buildassetsonline.com. But he introduced me to the land game as well. And today we're going to talk about all things e-commerce, and we're going to get into land specifically. But I'm pumped for this conversation. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure being here. Good to speak with you again. You guys have really gone on and done some great things since we last spoke. So,
absolutely. Talk about your backstory a little bit in terms of e-commerce, what you come from, what your primary focus was. Talk about your backstory.
Yeah, I mean, so if we take it all the way back, I went to school. I went to school for chemical engineering, and then I wound up in a job for a while. And my brother, who is my business partner, he started doing things on Amazon. He would go to the store, buy. Go to Trader Joe's, buy different things, resell them on Amazon. And then he kind of put me onto that whole world of, hey, you can make money online. So go back 10 years, that's kind of when I first started dabbling into that whole thing. I really started, I think I made like a Sudoku book on Amazon, and that was kind of the first time I ever made money. And it just, the first time you ever make that dollar, it's like, holy cow, this is real. So that kind of kickstarted everything. And then after 9 months of just doing stuff on Amazon, I was doing Kindle publishing. As you know, I was able to quit my job, and that was 10 years ago, kind of went full-time on that. And then we discovered high-ticket dropshipping. So, you become an authorized dealer for particular high-ticket products. You make an e-commerce store, you run ads to that. And that's really kind of where we started to take off in terms of our online business career. So we went on to make a bunch of stores, cashed out on a good number of them. We still operate that. And doing the high-ticket dropshipping really put us on to the idea of, most people, they see stuff online and it's like, oh, I'm going to sell this trinket, I'm going to make $50, I'm going to make, $25. But that showed us, hey, making thousands of dollars profit in a single transaction is really the quickest and easiest way to make money online. And then somehow I stumbled upon land, which is basically a similar thing where it's a super high price point, and so the margins can be super high. And we kind of just figured, hey, this is like high-ticket dropshipping, but we get to choose our margins. It's a one-on-one type product, and it was just kind of a natural fit. So we dove into that 2019. So that's kind of really what's we've been doing for the last 6 years, just high-ticket dropshipping, land. As you mentioned, we have our own e-commerce coaching business, but that's really about it.
So list off some of those industries you were in, just to get, because a lot of people here have come from similar backgrounds and stuff. List off some of you talked about high-ticket dropshipping is your main bread and butter now, correct?
High-ticket dropshipping and land really are still our number one and our number two. We can get into that as to what I like about the two things. Yeah.
Yeah. But talk about some of the other ones you were in. You talked about Kindle publishing. What else?
Oh, right.
Blogging stores, things, or blog sites, things like that.
Yes. So I did Kindle publishing. So we were doing romance novels. So we weren't writing them ourselves, but we had a team of ghostwriters. You know all about this. I forgot you did this as well.
It's great.
Yeah, that was fun because you basically just have a team of writers writing you books. You throw them on Amazon, and what's cool is that it's digital inventory, right? So you're not constantly reordering stuff, and that was great. We wound up selling that Amazon business for something like $400,000. And then we were really deep into blogging and SEO. We still have those to a degree, but SEO, as it was back, even a few years ago, is kind of dead. So we still do it. We still apply that to our e-commerce stores. But we have dozens and dozens of content sites, blog sites that make us money. We have the high-ticket dropshipping stuff. We have the land. I think that's about it.
That's crazy though, because I was in similar spaces as you, and the ones I really focused on was obviously the high ticket dropshipping, e-commerce stores, and then the Amazon Kindle publishing, which was one of my favorites for like getting out of your job because you just see it compound very fast. Like you just keep adding books, and you just see the KDP, the royalties just keep going up, and and that was the really cool thing
Yeah.
about it to me.
Yeah, dude, when I was at my job, like literally I would just have that screen open, just the KDP dashboard, and I would just click, watch the, another dollar, another
Just waiting to
dollar.
quit your job.
Yeah, yeah, just waiting for the number to go up every day.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. And all this compounded and trickled into you finding land, and you found good synergy with your background on what land is and being a high ticket and high profit business. What were some of the motivating factors other than that, just with what led you to land? Because you said that's your bread and butter now.
so as you could tell, we're always into like the new thing, and we try not to chase shiny objects, but in reality, we do a lot of the time. But we have certain principles that lead us to if we're going to do something or not. And land to me ticked all the boxes, just in terms of it's a really high ticket business. Just the scalability of it with the mailers, there's just, you can create your own traffic. For us, you have to be able to buy traffic if you want to have a truly successful online business. So there was that. And just, yeah, I mean, those are really the main two things. If you can buy traffic successfully, and the more high margin you are, the easier it is, right? Because as your listeners know, if you're going to make $20,000 profit on a piece of land, that's a lot of marketing wiggle room. Like even if it takes you 20,000 mailers, call that $10,000, you're still making $10,000 profit. And that's for most people just life-changing money. You make that once a month, you can see how that's, a big deal.
So you probably analyze your numbers a little bit differently than most people from what you just said. Most people look at like their mailers to deal, but it's mailers to average deal profit size is what you should look at, and then you have your return on ad spend.
I'll be honest, like getting really deep into the KPIs is not something that we've always been great at. I think, again, we just have kind of overarching principles that we think about things like in that way. So, yeah, again, when we first got into the business, it was like, okay, we had money from the high ticket dropshipping stuff. It's like, I'm going to commit to sending 5,000 units of mail each month for an entire year. And, whatever that it winds up being, whether it's, $30,000, I'll know at the end of the year, okay, did I make $30,000 back? And it just, the ROI was just so good that, yeah, it was
Yeah.
self-explanatory. But, that's one of the things we're really not good at. We should be better at. And like the things you said, okay, what's my average profit per deal and how many mailers is it taking to get that?
Yeah.
But, we kind of just shoot from the hip.
So you're still sole focus mail, correct? Direct mail, blind offers, or explain that.
Yeah, so really up until this point, we've only done blind offers. And so that's just kind of worked out for us. And yeah, I mean, we're so busy with some of the other things that we do that it's like, I just haven't spent the time to go into, cold texting. I don't know what else you guys even talk about. So I'm interested to hear that from you as far as what you see working. Is it like a lot of the texting stuff people are doing now or what?
Yeah, texting works well. Obviously, the mail still, things will balance out. We see mail, texting, and cold calling, and most people do cold calling through like lead gen services. We see those as kind of the three pillars in this business that will never change. Like they're not going to go anywhere. And as mail got more and more people came into the space, people saw mail getting more saturated. As you see, it still works very, very well, and you're still getting good return on your mail spend, it sounds like. So as more people shifted away from mail too, it creates another opportunity and to balance things out over time. I always recommend getting very, very good with one and then maybe trickling in another as you go. But yeah, texting works really, really well. It's just, as you know, with texting, you're going to have a high response rate. You need to have VAs and manage VAs for the response rate, qualify them, disqualify them. It becomes this whole business itself. So it really comes down to your budget and the time you want to put into it is what we tell people.
Yeah, do you recommend like a certain number of mailers before you get into that?
No, we have a lot of people that dive straight into texting if they're like if their
Okay.
budget's so tight that they have their budget's tight and they have the time and they want to put the energy and time into setting up texting systems, then it works. But it's a lot more tedious, and you just have to get really, really good at qualifying and disqualifying people quick so they're not wasting your time.
Gotcha. The reason I ask is because, in my opinion, the way I've always viewed it, as far as getting into the cold texting and the cold calling, it's like I could just spend more of that time getting more mail out because I already feel like I don't get enough out. Like I tried to look up some numbers just before we called because I figured you'd ask about it. I think in the last 3 years, I've only sent out like 130,000 units. And so our return on that has been pretty good. I would definitely say, yeah, like within the last couple of years, more and more people are starting to get into it. But again, I think we have a lot to do still in terms of our mail volume and getting that up.
Yeah.
So until, that is kind of at what I feel like it's ceiling, I don't want to go and spend time setting up, the cold texting system and
Yeah,
cold
because then it'll
calling.
take away from what you already know and what's already working for you. So you might as well just double down on that.
Right. Anytime I go away from something that is already working, I feel like it's just a recipe for nothing working, right? Because then you start not putting energy into the thing that works. You're trying to build up something new with, half your energy, and that's again typically a recipe for things to not go super well.
That's really solid advice. What do you what kind of markets are you in? Do you stay in the same, or you kind of scattered all around? You don't need to list off specific areas necessarily, but
Right.
like what are you focused in a few areas, or are you kind of scattered across the US?
So kind of in that same vein of like, I like to stick with what's working. Not that I don't really remail too often, and I'm curious as to your thoughts on that, as to because you guys see a lot of what's going on. I don't like to remail super super often. Maybe I'll do it once a year, once every 2 years, but I try to stick in a similar geographic area. Like I don't like to mail one county on the West Coast, and then I'm going to mail a county on the East Coast. Like I think that's
Right.
just too much bouncing around. It's
Right.
better if let's say if you're in, whoa, what just happened? Let's say if you're in Oregon, I'd rather mail all the states in a similar area in Oregon. That way I have the same realtor that can go and look at all those states.
Yeah.
I have the same title company that's going to service that stuff. And so it makes all the groundwork easier, and it streamlines the process.
Are you using realtors for the most part?
Yeah, I try to. Some areas where I, just have my own kind of, I've done a few deals and I know the area. I'll do it myself in terms of, the flat rate MLS and all those things. But I do prefer realtors, especially, I mean, if you're going into a new area, I think it's pretty much necessary depending on the price point and your risk.
Got it. And what's your team look like? I know you have VAs and stuff for your other businesses. Did you implement them over here at all? I know you mentioned a transaction coordinator. Talk about your business right now.
Yeah, really, I just have two employees. They're both US based. So the one, as you know, kind of handles main transaction coordination stuff. And then the other one is more of like just answering the phones. I prefer to have a native speaker answer the phones and just really have them be like a highly qualified person versus using an answering service because
Yeah.
I like to get to things really fast, right? If somebody calls and they're with an answering service, the answering service is going to, take them through the script, and then that's going to get emailed over to me. Maybe there's a better way to do that, but I find that it's just kind of slower than I prefer. If something is a really hot lead and the property looks really good, I want them transferred to me right now. That way I can close the deal, or, at least have a highly qualified employee that can also close deals. So that's how I view it.
And are they on scheduled time? Like, what if someone calls at night?
Oh yeah, no, they're just like 10 to 6.
10 to
So
6.
if
So
it's
they'll call
at
back
night,
first
then
thing.
I'll take the call.
Okay, so then it
So-
forwards to you.
Or I won't take the call. I'll let it go to voicemail, but maybe that's
And
a
then
bad
you
idea.
just call back as soon as you can. What do you think your average like callback time is if you because I think speed to lead is crucial for this because you're obviously paying a lot. These people are hot sometimes coming in. They want to close. They want to get under contract now. They're hot. What do you think the average speed to lead you have is?
I mean, if it's during business hours, they're either answering the call immediately, or if they missed a call for some reason, they're calling back within minutes.
Nice.
If it's, I missed a call at night, depending on how busy I am, maybe I'll call them back. Maybe I'll wait till morning. So maybe I lose out on a little bit of leads because of that. But I don't know if that's really, it's hard to say.
Yeah, that's interesting though because I agree with your philosophy 100%. Like this is when you're talking about $50,000 profit deals and the profit that you see in every deal, which I want to get into by the way and see your deal size next. But you're talking about such large transactions. You got to treat it. Having a native American on your team is not the worst thing because you're connecting with them. These deals are so expensive. Like you're making so much money per transaction. I completely agree with your philosophy. You should treat them like get back with them as soon as possible. You'd be surprised how many people aren't calling back, Joe or Mike. I almost called you your brother, Joe. You almost
I mean,
you really be surprised how many people aren't calling back within 24 hours.
I think sometimes people don't take it as seriously as they should because, like you said, one deal can net you so much money, and you really need to think about like, what is my effective hourly rate? Like for you, you have a bunch of things going on, so your effective hourly rate, something that's going to make you actually sit there, hop on a call or take a call, is probably high. Like you're not going to get out of bed if it's going to be a couple $100. But I'm sure maybe if it's $100,000, you're going to take that call or you're going to, rise to the occasion. Most people that are getting into this, they probably would like $50,000. So they need to treat their time, as such.
Yeah. And who's closing the deals? Like is that the person answering your phone?
They can. So yeah, they'll get in deals and they'll get commission for that. Like if they actually get the signed purchase agreement in. But sometimes, they need me to come in and handle things like if there's particular questions or whatever it is. So we both kind of share that responsibility.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was also going to ask is how do you compensate them? Being Americans and more expensive, obviously, than a South American. A lot of people are moving to South American for virtual assistants for things like this. I've seen, but how do you compensate your American employees?
So they get a salary and then they get a commission based off of if they get the purchase agreement in, they get a particular commission, or if they don't get the agreement in, but they wind up selling the property, then they get a smaller commission.
Got it. So they get a commission no matter what, once it sells.
Well, if they don't get the agreement in and they don't sell it, then they don't. But
Got it.
you know what I'm saying? Because like some things we sell ourselves, or even if
Yeah.
it's with the realtor, I'm going to list it on Facebook. I'm going to list it, wherever I can. So we're going to get our own leads in. And so oftentimes, even if there is a realtor, they can facilitate the sale. And so I'll compensate them for that. But, if they don't get the agreement in and then the realtor sells it flat out, then they don't.
Yeah. And how has that been with two? So it's three of you. It's you. Does Joe, your brother Joe, business partner, do anything with land right now?
He's half involved. I'd say really no. I don't kind of count him as part of the land business side because he's off doing his own things. Like I said, we still do the blogging stuff to a degree. Joe's, he's always off doing whatever he's doing. But yeah, so it's just the three of us.
And you feel that's the one thing I loved about this business when I started. Like you don't need a big team to scale it. You really you can get with three people. You can get you very, very far away. You talk about like service industries and other industries in general, and see what you can do with three people. This industry is incredible for that. Do you feel like you can scale with your team right now with the transaction coordinator, then the phone guy? I'll call him.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like I could scale it just myself if I wasn't doing a million other things.
Right.
Keep in mind, I'm running, the e-commerce business.
Education.
Yeah, I'm doing the education stuff. So like my time is limited in and of itself. If I had nothing else going on and I was just doing the land stuff, like I could probably get by with 0 employees. I would just answer the phones. I'd maybe then have like an answering service for, just to give myself some time at night or something, or if I had to go do something. But yeah, that you could totally like make a lot of money just by yourself.
And it doesn't take that much time either. Like that's the thing. It really doesn't. Especially if you're sending mail. Like once you start texting and getting a bunch of leads in and things, it takes a lot more. But mail is so efficient for the qualified leads coming in. I wanted to ask you what is your average? You said you don't have the KPIs, which is fine. What would you guess your average deal size is?
Really, it ranges. So I mean, I'm happy with what you'd call a base hit. Buy for 8,000, sell for 16,000, like that type of thing. Making all in all, make $5,000 profit on a deal. I'm fine with that. That's a base hit in my eyes, and that's paying for the mail, and I'll keep rolling with those. They're easy. But we mail for, the base hit all the way up to the home run. So, I prefer to buy things under 100,000, meaning like my buy price.
Yeah.
Under 100. But just even selling under 100,000, I find is easier as well.
Right.
So we generally don't do too many transactions above 100K. We've done it, we've done a few. We had like a buy for 100, sell for 180 last year. That was good. And we kind of sold that one like pretty cheap, I think. We got an offer on it before we even like put it on the MLS or anything like that. So, that's a big hit in my eyes. We did an assignment on a property, so like a double close. We made $80,000 on.
Oh wow, that's a good double close, infinite return right there.
Yeah, and that was off of just a mailer, and the guy we just mailed like a 1 acre lot, and the guy had he owned the entire subdivision. So we
Wow.
bought, we we didn't buy it. We double closed on the entire subdivision. Um,
Wow.
so yeah,
And what made you go that double close route? Have you gotten into double closing besides this transaction, or like do you see it in your future?
I've really only done it here and there, like literally 2 or 3 times, including that deal.
Yeah.
So I don't get too deep into it just because, again, like I just stick to what works. To me, I'm fine with like I don't have anything against it. It's just not something that I've bothered really diving into like how to do it, and um, yeah, I don't have too much to say as to why I haven't done it. But what was your question? Oh, why did we double close that one?
Yeah,
Well,
like what
he wanted
opportunities you see?
like 400 to 500,000 for the whole subdivision, which was like 20 lots or something like that, and that's just maybe I could have got it funded, but I just didn't want to deal with selling the lots individually or selling something like it's so niche buying a
Yeah.
community or buying a subdivision that you know we kind of reached out to some of our funders and then they offered to actually just buy it, and then
Nice.
yeah, I'll take that.
That's awesome. What about your? Let's talk about your funders a little bit because I like especially new people coming in. It's one of their biggest questions, like how they're going to get funding on deals. And obviously, your funding has evolved, I'm sure, over the years. Talk about how you get your deals funded and different strategies you used.
Yeah, so back in the day, my ideology was I'm just going to spend as much money as I can on mail, and I'm going to fund most of my deals because I want to keep, like I said, to me in the beginning, just making sure I was mailing consistently was my number one priority. People, yeah, like I felt like if I'm waiting for a deal to sell and that causes me to not mail, then it's just going to slowly kill my momentum. So that's kind of how I thought about it, and I funded a lot of deals in the beginning. But then eventually, after I built up a good bankroll and just was more confident with the business, then I wound up just doing more and more of my own deals. Um, so really, right now, I would say I buy most deals myself. That one was like 2 years ago, but that one I probably would fund either way. Just like that's just too high of a price point for me
Yeah.
to bother with. I would probably just try to double close that deal again, like if it was me in this day and age.
Right. And so you're either getting funding. It sounds like you fund most of your deals right now, correct?
Right now, yeah, I do mostly my own. Like I'll buy all my own stuff, and then I'll also fund other people's deals.
You're funding other people's deals too.
Yeah,
Very good. And what
yeah.
percentage of your business is funding other people's deals versus your own deals?
I would say in terms of profit, probably 80% our own stuff, 20% other people's deals. I don't like super advertise, you know, that I'm funding stuff. It's just people will come to me and I'm happy to do it. I mean, so if you're listening to this and you want somebody to fund your deals, you can hit me up. But yeah, it's just kind of been like something that's naturally happened. Just you make
Yeah.
friends in the community and they need stuff funded, so you just do it.
Do you see yourself growing in that way, deal funding on that side? Do you want to grow in that way?
Oh yeah, the deal funding I love doing just because, you know, getting in the leads is the hardest part and takes so much energy. I've employees dedicated to getting in the leads, but when someone comes to you with a already signed deal, I'm happy
Yeah.
to, just fund it and
Right.
take a percentage. So, yeah, yeah, I'm happy to grow it. I just haven't put much time into it.
Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com. Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever reached a financial cap where it sounds like you have where you needed outside funding, but have you ever looked at raising like friends and family interest-based 15% annual loans or anything?
I don't know if I would go to my friends and family for that. I would feel bad if it like didn't work or something.
Yeah.
But in terms of just getting a loan, no, because we never like it's not that we had money from the high ticket dropshipping stuff. We
Right.
sold stores and we were never like really, really at our ceiling.
Cap.
So yeah, I like to do things, we're very risk averse. So there's always cushion, like we're prepared to fail. So that's kind of just our approach to it. So yeah, I haven't even thought about doing that. But if you're I don't know. I think if somebody was going to do that, I'd probably wait until you at least knew what you were doing and you had some track record of success before
Yeah.
you go ahead and take that loan out.
It's risk. Yeah, I don't suggest anyone do it at first, but once you have your feet under, you don't want to leverage every single property because what they do is they put, and we used to do this a ton. I mean, on hundreds and hundreds of deals, we just put 15% mortgages on our land and leverage other people's money and then tell them at the end of it, we'll either pay you out or the property will be deeded to you essentially, and we always would pay them out. So it's like a guaranteed, unless we go bankrupt, a guaranteed payout of 15% annually. And we did that, and it got scary at times for sure. You're leveraging a lot.
Interesting. So you would do this with like friends and family, you said, or you would do it through a different way?
I would get, well, the way we structure it, so it's deferred payments because you go to banks, they try to get you monthly payments and stuff. We don't want any of that. So we just custom our own offer and then try to find friends and family and people who can do it because it was good returns for them, very good returns. And there's pretty much a 15% loan, no origination fee, so you're not paying anything up front. They pay 100% of it, and then when it closes, you give them the 15% plus principal essentially.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any friends or family that I would think have money they're willing to shell out.
Yeah.
I'm probably that person in my family.
Yeah.
I'd be shelling out the money.
And it doesn't necessarily like we have funders in our community who wanted to go that route because they like the security of it, and maybe they got burned on a deal or two. Maybe they made like 7% or 5% on a couple profit split ones. But it's definitely an option to scale. And we used a lot of it, but for someone new, I wouldn't suggest it. But for someone super experienced, it's something to look into if you have connections or can get those connections for sure.
Yeah, I'd rather do a deal fund that's just based like if I didn't have money, I'd rather just pay someone, or rather have them pay for the property and give them a percentage of the the total profit.
There's no risk.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a different way to do it because for them it's guaranteed returns.
Right.
But or guaranteed some sort of asset.
Yeah. What about your deal flow? Like you said, you sent out 130,000 the last few years. What kind of deal flow are you getting? A deal a month, deal every few months? What's it look like?
It's so weird because sometimes we'll send a mailer and it's like 5,000 units and, we'll get such a small amount of leads back or even deals back. And then we'll send out a mailer that's like 1,500 units and it'll just hit and we'll get like 3 or 4 deals out of it. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to say like the exact, this month we get, this amount of deals back in. But I would say in terms of purchase properties, we want to aim for at least, 2 a month in terms of purchase properties, or at least like we're sending it into the title company to be purchased. So 2 to 5 a month, I would think would be like, if I didn't send any properties in to be purchased that month, like we screwed up and I need to backtrack.
That's great. That's great though. And you've been consistent with that through the last 24 months or so?
Yeah, I'd say so.
On average, I'm just saying averaging out.
Mm-hmm.
Going off that then, like what if you averaged your mail out the last 12 months, getting those 2 to 5 deals a month, what mail volume are you sending out monthly? And I know some months you might send out more and some months none, like you said, but average it out.
I think we said the last 12 months?
Yeah, just rough estimate.
I think within the last 12 months, we sent out maybe 50 or 60,000 units. And I think the year before, I want to say, last year, 2024, I want to say we sent out like 50, 60,000. The year before that, we accidentally sent out like not that many, maybe like 30,000 units. And we still did pretty well. So I didn't even notice. But yeah, I'm like, oh shit, we gotta ramp it up.
That's great though.
So,
and it's all blind offer, so you're pricing your mail right now, correct?
Yeah, I do that myself.
Got it. One thing I don't know if you know this, we added the comp report to the land portal. All the TLP estimates now are going to be in the export. I just wanted to tell you and the listeners listening too. All the TLP, the land portal estimates, which is the predicted price based on the AI model, is going to be in every single row that you export now, which really helps with that. And we've had really, really good success with it so far with testing it out and the actual comp report. So just want to throw that out there. What have you any projects you've done that come up from these deals, subdivides, anything, or you just buy and flip? Know what you know?
Really, I want to say 99% buy and flip. There may have been 1 or 2 that I subdivided just because it was like a no zoning area and you could. But yeah, really, I mean, perk tests, things like that. Well, happy to do that. Surveys, if needed. If it's gonna boost the value of the property, we'll do that. But it just depends on the area you're at. Like some places to do a perk test is super easy. You know, it's a few $100,
Right.
and then you
Yeah.
know for sure if it's buildable. Other areas, it's could be literally thousands of dollars for a perk test, and so you kind of got to
Crazy.
just shoot from the hip.
Have you had any go wrong? Perk test where you bought something and you can't sell it because perk failed or test failed?
We've had things come back failed, but we've been able to get out of them somehow. So we had one property we bought, and I sent the perk guy out there after we bought it, just because I was so like, this is a great deal, yada yada. And he calls me. He's like, this property. I went to this property myself actually because I was on a road trip and I just happened to be going by that area. So I was like, let me go look at it. And I walked it, and it was whatever was fine, piece of land. And I go there, or sorry, the perk guy goes there, and then he calls me. He's like, this property is covered in fill. You can't do anything with it.
What do you mean by what's failed? Trash?
No, so like, I guess the property was basically wetlands, but they dumped. It's called fill. It's just like dirt, like sand, some type of soil on top of the property to cover up the wetlands, so it wasn't wet.
Wow. And you didn't buy it at this point yet, though.
No,
You
no,
didn't
I
close
already
it?
bought it. I already
Oh,
bought it when he told me this.
Oh, you had it purchased. Okay, talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this. Tell me this whole story. I want to keep hearing.
So that's really what happened. I mean, he called. He's like, this property is covered in fill. You can't do anything with it. It's just against the state laws to build on fill. So I was like, well, okay, we're screwed. But we wound up just listing it anyway, and we got our money back. I think a little bit more, just because it was, I don't know, a super hot area. And
What was someone gonna do? Could you like build up or something, pile dirt in one area and put a house? Like what would someone do with that? Or just recreational?
dude, I have no idea, and it wasn't even that big. It was like an acre or two. So, what is somebody gonna? I don't even know, man. This was a few years ago, so the details are a little
That's
blurry
wild.
in my mind as far as what they wanted to do with it. Whoa.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. I mean, I think we've had other similar situations. Like you buy things and then you
Yeah.
don't realize that it's covered in wetlands. Like we've had that happen a few times, and we've made money every time that's happened. But the wetland ones, it's like they're really. I say I'm never going to do them again, and then I wind up doing them, just because I wound up getting it for a super cheap price. I'm like, it'll
Yeah.
sell,
Yeah.
and then it just winds up being a huge pain. And
Hard to sell.
Yeah.
Have you been stuck with any of them long term?
I don't think I've had to hold on to any of those for longer than a year. But I had one recently that I bought that was like 5 acres. It was pretty much all wetlands, but I got it for so cheap just compared to what 5 acres was selling for in the area that I was like, I can't lose. But it just causes such a headache because it's like you price this property super cheap
Right.
in the area, so everybody's freaking out, like messages, calls, just so many tire kickers, obviously because they find out you can't build on it.
Right.
Which we try to be upfront about. We're not going to call it a building lot if it's not. But in the same breath, like people, I think if they really want to pursue building on a lot, even if it's wet, they can find a way. Like if the property is cheap enough or the area is expensive enough, like so for example, one of the double closes we did was in a super super hot area, but the property itself was completely wetlands. And we wound up having to negotiate the price down with the seller a few times because of it. But anyway, we had the person that wound up buying it knew that it was wet, and they're like, I'm gonna keep suing the town until they let me buy it or until they let me build on it.
Wow.
So
So that works especially
like-
well when you have to have the margins for it to make sense to where you can drop the price. That's the biggest thing that I'm hearing from you.
yeah, of course, if you're buying wetlands, you can't buy it at
Right.
what you think
Don't
the standard
force a
flip
deal.
would be. It has to be,
Yeah.
yeah. But when you sell those wetlands, a lot of times people know that it is, and it's a pretty easy thing to beat them up about because like, hey, it's provable. Like, just go on the wetland mapper.
Yeah. Absolutely. What speaking of that, you said you visited your land. Have you ever visited any other properties besides that one? A lot of people ask like, do you ever go to your properties? Do you have to go to your properties? You do this 100% remote, which we didn't mention before,
Yeah.
which most people do in this business. Have you been to any others?
Yeah, I got a fun story for you. So, me and my buddy Sean, who you know,
Mm-hmm.
we had a deal that we actually, I don't even think, he wasn't even involved in the deal at the time, but we had a property and it was one that was pretty close to us. It was like a few hour road trip. So we're like, hey, why don't we go to this property? It was like 10 acres and we'll just go and, camp out, not like overnight, but go there and hang out and just see what's going on. So we wound up driving all the way there. And so what I didn't really know at the time was this property was owned by this, one person, and the neighboring property was owned by the cousins. And so apparently there was a big dispute
Mm.
between the family as far
Mm-hmm.
as the cousins wanted to buy that property, and they basically sold it from underneath them to me. And at the time of going there, I already had it under contract to be sold to somebody else. So I still owned it, but it was under contract. It was going to be sold in the next couple of weeks, right? So we go there, and I guess the neighbor sees that we're there. They see a car, kind of in the driveway, because the property kind of had like an old structure on it. It was whatever. So we're out in the woods. Just we like made a fire. We were like making coffee. We
That's
had a
awesome.
fire in the woods going, and this neighbor comes riding out on an ATV. He gets out, huge beer gut, like comes and talks to us. I guess he trespassed onto our property, but he was coming talking to us, and we were telling him, yeah, I have this property, blah 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 blah, and he was explaining the whole situation, and he was cool, whatever. He was probably a bit drunk. He was, he had a beer and a koozie, of course, and so he wound up leaving, and then a little bit later, another neighbor, same house, another cousin, wound up driving by, and this guy was just belligerently drunk, and he's like, he started yelling at us, asking us questions. He's like, "You got a deed?" And we're like, "I mean, yeah, what do you want me to like scroll it, like like unscroll the deed?" Um, and I couldn't really understand what he was saying, but he was pretty belligerent, and he had a gun on him, and so he's talking to us, and his ATV starts rolling down the hill as he's talking to us, and so he winds up chasing it, getting back onto the ATV. We thought he was gonna swoop around and come back to us. He went off somewhere else in the distance, and then all we hear is just pop, 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 pop. He starts shooting, I guess, just to scare us. And so it was pretty scary. We're just in the middle of
What?
the woods, like far away from home. This guy is shooting,
Oh my gosh.
trying to intimidate us. He wound up calling the realtor to see if it was legit. And so the realtor calls me. He's like, "Hey, are you at the property right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, these people are calling me. They're freaking out, saying some dudes are here." And like, the realtor said, the two brothers were listening to the realtor talk. And then once the realtor confirmed it was legit, they were like yelling, like, "Motherfucker," just like not happy about the whole situation. So that was fun. And so we wound up skedaddling after
Yeah.
they started shooting, and we pull
That
out
is
and the car
crazy.
dies. And so we were able to like roll into like the only place that was like in the vicinity. The only it was like a bar, and so we hung out, had a large AAA bill come through to get towed back to our area. But yeah, that was fun.
Wow. So I always hear the stories of neighbors coming with guns, especially the droners, and they come
Mm.
out. So, a couple questions on that. One, were you able to sell the property fine? They didn't harass the future buyers.
No, they knew the buyers. The buyer was like another neighbor or something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
So yeah,
So they were
and that
fine.
was also I think that also caused some of the confusion because they had already heard that that person was buying it, so they just assumed that they owned that. They owned it. They didn't even realize that we were in the middle. You
Got
know what I
it.
mean? All they knew was
Wow.
that their cousin owned it, and now this person is buying it slash they own it. They didn't realize these dudes bought it from up under them and then sold it to another
That's
neighbor.
crazy. The drunk guy with
Yeah.
a gun, that's never a good thing. And then he actually opened fire. Down, how far away was he when he shot, do you think?
I couldn't see him because he kind of went, I guess, like under the hill from where we
Yeah.
were, but probably 100 feet.
And do you think if
But it
he
was
didn't leave, like this is all speculation, but if he didn't leave, they would have approached you again?
no, because I think the realtor cleared it up.
Okay. That's always good.
But at that point, we were getting
Would
out of
it,
there anyway.
would you did, yeah, that's after those gunshots, you don't want to stay. Would
Yeah.
that deter you from visiting a property again?
No, no, I think I would go again. I just think that one in particular, um, I maybe should have realized that the person I bought it from had the same last name as the
The
neighbor.
neighbors, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would try to avoid it if there was any family. But also, kind of the way that the property was, it was like more of like an L shape.
Mm-hmm.
So we were kind of close to their property as well. Like
Yeah.
if I had like 20 acres and it was just like a square property and, you know, just regular road frontage, then that probably wouldn't happen. But I think it was just
Yeah.
a unique situation.
That can be one of the worst situations is when that happens and then you don't have another neighbor buying it. It's someone coming from out of town or something or not. They don't know each
Mhm.
other and then they literally will deter. We've had so many situations where they walk out to the people visiting with guns and saying this ain't for sale and just yelling at them.
Mhm.
And it's just like you talk about difficult properties to sell. It's always like that is the hardest property to sell is a bad neighbor.
Yeah, the neighbors, if they don't buy the property, are usually going to be your worst enemy
It's horrible.
because I've had neighbors call and be like, "You're selling it for this. It's worth, like a rock bottom price." Meanwhile, I sell it for exactly what I thought I was going to sell it for.
Yeah.
And yeah, they'll come out. I'm trying to think of. I had that happen very very recently, and I forget if I still own it or if I sold it. But we had one property we sold recently where there was a driveway right at the end of our property, so it might have even been encroaching our property,
Hmm.
but people kept using it to go look at the property. And then the neighbors found the listing on Facebook, and it was just like this old lady, just like you could tell, just had no teeth,
Right.
and she was sending me these voice messages on Facebook, just like flipping out at me,
Wow.
like stop using my driveway, this and that. I'm gonna open, I want to protect my property, but it's
Seriously.
fun.
Yeah.
I love
it's a part
land
of it.
because like you wind up dealing with such characters that you would never come in contact with in a normal your normal walking day life,
It's so much different, especially like in certain areas. It's a lot worse than others for sure. But what I always try to do when I'm in those situations too, when it's really an issue and like you're not going to sell that property because the neighbor's going out to every single person visiting it and just saying get off, like when it's that situation, I always try to contact the actual person who's giving the issues and say, hey, it's for sale if you want to buy it. Other than that, I own it. Like we got to make this work. I'm going to sell it regardless. And then you can even tell them things like, I want to sell this, at a price I have it for. But if you keep deterring people and scaring them off, I'm going to end up selling this for like $5,000, and you're going to get a bad neighbor, like a really bad neighbor who just can't afford the And you can usually come to terms with them, and they'll understand your side of things as well. But I always try to get in contact with that person because it's just been I've had nightmare stories with that happening over and over again.
Yeah, one thing I did recently, it wasn't a bad neighbor, but long story short, the neighbor had a bunch of trash on the property. Obviously suspected because I, only acquired it then. I don't know who put it there. I had to assume it was the neighbor, and it was like, cars they were working on and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
I sent a legal letter to them, and it was like, hey, you have 60 days to get your stuff off the property or whatever, whatever. And I was like, oh, or you could buy it for this amount. And they contacted us like immediately. They're like, yeah, I'll buy it.
Oh wow.
So
There you go.
yeah, I think if I had like a really bad neighbor, I'd probably go that route. Like send them a legal letter, it costs you a couple $100.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've done that a couple times in the e-commerce business. Like people will file chargebacks, and it's just completely unwarranted.
Oh, that was the worst.
and
I remember.
yeah, like they'll file a chargeback, they won't answer you, but I'll tell you what, the day they get that letter in the mail from the law firm, they're answering you, they're responsive, they're a different person. So
Got to
that's
threaten them
probably
a
the
little
route
bit.
I would go.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a good legal threat to
Yeah.
put them in their place.
Do you own any land yourself or have plans to? I know you're buying and flipping a lot. Or is there any you see you're like, I need this. I want to keep this one.
No, I don't think I've come across that yet. I think I don't know. I don't know. It's like you see some of these properties and you're like, wow, that's cool to have, this land here, and I've had some big ones like maybe 30 or 50 acres, and it's like, wow, imagine having that land. But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I don't have any particular plans to do that. I think I don't know. Maybe I'd be a little scared to be alone in 50 acres by myself. I need to have more guns.
Yeah, but you don't need to live there. You just go there to visit. Ron and I did
Yeah.
it over at it's like 50 minutes from Cincinnati, and it was another guy named Sean. He brought us the property to fund, and I was like, Ron, this has to be our property. It's like in a great area right off 75, which is the main highway that takes you from Cincinnati to Florida, and it just like was nice and flat and good, and it was just perfect property. I was like, we need this land, and we ended up buying it from him, giving him an assignment fee, and then we still own it today and do different things with it. But it's fun to have. But obviously, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I probably would have just flipped it. But now we're keeping
Mhm.
it kind of for long term appreciation and recreational purposes.
Oh, you use it recreationally. You're not gonna like build a glamping site on it or anything like that.
Well, we're in a pond project right now. Kind of went south. Um, we started at it's a 2 acre pond. We're building a massive pond. It looks like like literally an asteroid hit it from Mars. Like it's a massive crater in the earth right now. But the old contractors pretty much went belly up. And so we're settled on that side of things, but we have a new contractor starting in September. So we're putting a pond on it, and I want to put a little cabin on it. It's got like a little driveway now and things like that. So slowly over time, but what you add, you have to manage, and
Hmm.
just how much managing you want to do with whether I just have a cabin there, like someone's got to watch it and cameras and all that and take care of it and mow. Just creates a lot of work too. So we're gonna probably put a small little cabin and then have that pond also.
So what's your philosophy these days on improving property? I mean, you told me you were doing some subdivides, but yeah, it seems like you're getting used to dealing with contractors and these types of people that are going to deal with the county and get permits and stuff.
Yeah, contractors are never the easy, or sometimes you get good contractors, they're easy, but it's never the easiest type of people to work with. We do a lot of subdivides. That's like if you look at our profit over the last 24 months, a lot has come from subdivides. I think they're
Hmm.
easy to acquire. You can buy them for market value, and you can, if you get the right properties, now you target road frontage. You can target on MLS deals on the land portal, and just target specific properties and pay close to market value because you're going to split it up in 3, 4 extra
Hmm.
money anyway. So I love subdivides. We have some people doing like not gravel driveways, but they'll clear like a little driveway out and do some brush hogging and things like that. A lot of people are starting to do this, and then they'll clear like a little 100 by 100 area for a building site.
Hmm.
And that way it's just easier to sell, and you can sell it for more a lot of times. Sometimes they'll put in utilities and stuff like that. It's more work. I don't see a need 100% to do that, but I do see the value for the people that do that. It's just easy. You sell it faster. And there's some people who do it on the double close side too, because those conversations can get a little sticky. It's like, okay, when you're pitching a double close, it's like, what's your value necessarily? And I talked to one girl in our community, Kay. On all of her double closes, she tells the owner that she's improving the property before she sells it. So then they
Hmm.
perceive it as, oh, you're doing all this work that I don't want to do and going to get more money
Hmm.
for it. And that's a good selling point as well. And I think that's really unique.
No, that's actually an awesome idea. So when you do these subdivides, how often are you like building in a road and
Never.
doing that type of thing? For it's just a paper subdivide.
But almost all,
Hmm.
unless there's already a road or something developed, or if it's not the craziest project of a road. But a lot of times, like you start getting into road, depends on the restrictions, because roads, you have class A, B, and C, and a lot of subdivides in counties, even if they're pretty rural, won't allow just roads going through and you splitting it up on both sides. Sometimes they'll need class A roads or class B roads where you actually need sewage and stuff in them. So it can become a
Hmm.
big pain. We kind of work backwards from the county restrictions. Like if we can just put a dirt road in the center, split it up off the sides, we will. But it doesn't always
Yeah.
work like that.
Yeah, because I would imagine one of the main bottlenecks of a subdivide would be the road frontage, as
It
you
is.
said. That's why you want to filter by it. Yeah, so to be able to just clear, do a little bit of brush hogging, and then that's a road. Now you can subdivide it other ways. I
Yeah,
imagine that's
absolutely. It
important.
opens up your inventory for sure. But
Hmm.
attacking like MLS deals too, because you said it's so hard to get leads in this business. Attack MLS on market properties that have been
Hmm.
sitting for a little bit with X amount of road frontage in your areas you want. There's not a lot of inventory, but you don't need a lot because they're on the market and want to sell. So you just look for different criteria, and if it's the land you want, and if you give them a decent offer, they're going to sell. But then you try to get it 70, 80% market value and negotiate from there. And Subdivides work so well just because how much you can pay.
Hmm. So do you mainly get your subdivides off the MLS, or are you doing like kind of the cold outreach
No,
for
we
those two?
really do them off cold outreach, but MLS we're getting into a little bit more, and I see more and more people doing that. But there's only so much, like you said, there's only so much inventory of 50 plus acres with X amount of road frontage. You might have 10 counties and get
Hmm.
like 5 different results, 10 different
Yeah.
results of land that fits that criteria.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you. No, there's a couple areas where I'm familiar with like the zoning areas, and I know even there's some areas that have no zoning. I love no zoning properties
Oh
for
yeah,
obvious reasons. So that's kind of I've like browsed the MLS here and there for, hey, is there any, 20 plus acres and stuff like that. But I gotta like set an alert or something every time a new one pops up on the MLS, just so
it's
I
true.
review it. I always fall off with trying to do that because yeah, it's like I've sold, properties of smaller acreage in that county. So it's like, why not? I know exactly what, a 2 acre would sell for. So if I
Right.
buy 20, then
Do the math, yeah.
pretty good idea. Yeah, do the math.
That's the main reason we come up with like good subdividing. We'll call them markets or counties. Is we just look at the spread from like what a 5 acre property is to like what a 20 to 40 acre property is, and look at the spread in the price per acre, and that's your answer if
Hmm.
it's a good one for it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool.
Cool, man. Any other? Got to wrap this up here soon. So any other strategies you're looking to get in the future, or anything like where's your land going? Where's your land career going?
Yeah, so really, I think we're just kind of just still ramping up the blind offers. We really want to take that to, like I said, we've only done, 130,000 in the last few years. Like it needs to be that per year. So just slowly ramping that up to, get it be 100,000 a year and then 200,000 a year and stuff like that. And then getting into some of maybe the cold outreach type thing. I've tried neutral letters. Those have been okay. Like you said, that's kind of maybe why I've been hesitant towards doing like the texting and the calling and stuff because I've seen
Hmm.
with neutral letters how annoying it can be to sift through these
Right.
people's responses and go through the properties and all that. So that's really it. I mean, like I'm super old school in how I approach the land business, and I I plan to stick with that. I think my philosophy is more and more people are going to come into land. They're going to try doing the blind offers and they're not going to get the result that they want or they're going to give up. And as long as I stay consistent over the years and years, I'm just going to, I'm going to wind up getting the results because I think there's always an ebb and flow to everything. Like you said, people, want to do the texting, so they're going to neglect the offers and it's just going to kind of come in waves.
Absolutely. And I think that's one big thing, and I want everyone to take from this is like how focused you are. Because you say these numbers like they're not big, 130,000 the last 3 years, but you've done that consistently and you're consistently selling, you said two or buying 2 to 5 properties a month consistently on average across, which is really, really impressive to do over a long term. I mean, you guys know how profitable this business is and how impressive that is. So it's like it doesn't sound big on paper and you're almost sounding like you're downplaying it, but you're laser focused and you know what's working and you're sticking with that. And I honestly think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think land is one of the hardest businesses from a mindset perspective because it's kind of like you have to push the button each month to make the traffic go, to get the deals to come in, right? Like with e-commerce, I have the ad account going. I haven't really touched it in years. Like it's going to spend. The deals are the money's going to come in from the sales, just kind of on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just happening. I have to pick the market. I got to extract the data. I got to price the data, and people really can just lose sight of like being consistent each month in the land business, especially if you maybe had a mailer that didn't go well, you had a month that didn't go well, you have a deal that kind of went sour. All those things are kind of in the back of your head when it comes to I need to pick a market, I need to you know get the mail out the door. And so if you're not just having that mindset of no matter what, each month mail has to go out the door, then you're going to probably wind up fizzling out.
Yeah, completely agree with what you said. Um, well, we'll wrap this up. I want to give you a shout out for that deal funding comment too. If you guys need deal funding, Mike said he offers some deal funding. Hit Mike up. But Mike, where's the best place to reach you?
Really, we live at buildassetsonline.com, or if you just look up Build Assets Online on YouTube, that's where we do our podcasts and our videos. So if you have any questions about, really anything concerning land, concerning e-commerce, just hit us up there and would love to talk with you.
Absolutely, man. Well, we appreciate you joining. Thanks for coming on today.
Good to talk with you, Dan, and hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, man. As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.